Welcome to another episode of Unconditioned Mind. Unconditioned Mind is a project of Awakened Global, which is a movement that seeks to contribute towards gender and racial inequality. This season, we're dealing with entrepreneurship and personal development, which is a very important topic when we think about our journey of economic transformation in South Africa. And I have an exciting guest here, one of my daughters, Emma Mashilwane. I'm so excited about this conversation, and I know that we're going to really get insights and super nuggets from her. Welcome, my dear. Just maybe introduce yourself, tell us, where you are now, and don't forget your educational qualifications, because people want to know. And then we will delve deeper into your career. Okay. Over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ma'am Nonku. It's not often that your mom, if I can call her, invites you to have a session like just this. It's a reflective session for me, and I appreciate the opportunity. So, as you said, I'm Emma Mashilwane. I come from Limpopo originally. I grew up in a small village in Kuneland. I'm a descendant of many teachers and nurses. My parents were, both trained teachers. And my mom is revered as a high school principal in our village. And I developed a love of education at a young age. Not necessarily the accounting, because there were not many accountants in our village. I'm actually the second. The first one is my Jojo. She also happens to be an entrepreneur from the same village. Yeah, and then I went to boarding school with all my siblings. I've got a twin brother, an older brother, and a younger sister. So we were all in boarding school, and it was back in the days, in the late 80s, early 90s, and we had a 4-term. Which was we went to a 3-term school. So which meant half of the time we were not really integrated with the other village kids, which in itself, we made sure that we appreciate the opportunity to go to a good school. There's a couple of kids who went to the same boarding house, and we had a good times. At St. Mark's is the school. It's in Jane First in Limpopo as well. And Mr. and Mrs. Anderson really instilled a love of education, discipline. Sport was the core of our curriculum. And I think that's where I learned my athletic and love for sport. And it's one thing that I've been fortunate to keep throughout, even post high school. So I then studied at UCT, and then it was a 4-year degree. If you didn't come from an independent school, you will end up in the 4-year BCom degree. And that's where I studied, and I didn't finish because I was financially excluded, unfortunately. And therein lies the first challenge. I come from a family where, it's not that we were well off, but we were comfortable. And unfortunately, there were challenges, at home. And I got financially excluded. And I said, now what? Fortunately, my dad lived in Joburg, because he worked for the SABC. He was no longer a teacher. He actually only practiced for like 3 years, as he said, as a teacher.
Oh, okay.
So he's always been on radio. He started in Radio Leboa and then came to work at the SABC. And so I came back to Joburg and obviously frustrated, because I'm very driven and I did well in high school. And I had goals, obviously.
Yes.
And when you are away from home, you get to meet all sorts of people, and it either hones your ambitions, or it can take you on a different path. I was fortunate that the kind of friends that I had, we were driven, and it was very sad for me to leave. I actually didn't even say goodbye to them, because I also felt a sense of shame. But I was just confused. Yes. So I came back to Joburg, and I stayed home probably around 3 months, confused, angry, and the whole emotions. And then my dad said to me, look, you need to snap out of it. This is where our family financial situation is. And, our parents had a way of saying it. Yes. They were not always direct with the challenges that they had. And I'm sure it's the same for most people my age. And then I decided, okay, I need to snap out of it, because I started this journey and I do want to finish it. Yes. And I then started looking for work. And I got a job at Standard Bank in their finance department, so in retail banking, and then I moved into regional at some point. And even then, I was very fortunate that I had a boss that saw the potential, and he will sit me down on many times during our month end, and he will say to me, look, you need to go and do the CA stream, because the reality is, if you want to work in finance, you will always feel like you're a second-rate citizen, And I think that for me was my aha. So I then realized, okay, I need to finish the UCT fees, because it was blocking my results. So I couldn't even get the results to be accredited anyway for my first and second year. So I then decided, maybe let me just study through UNISA. I'll do the BCom for non-degree purposes. And they allowed me to do it for non-degree purposes. And they said, when your results come, we will credit you. Okay. So I took a few of the accounting courses. I was fortunate. They actually allowed me to do the second year courses, because I had a transcript from before. They could see I've done first and second year, and they said, look, we can't get you into third year. So I eventually, long story, finished my degree and graduated.
Part-time now?
Part-time.
Wow.
Part-time. It was tough, but it taught me a lot around, if you're driven, you must never let anyone take your goals away from you. You are the master of your own destiny. Yes. And I learned that the hard way. Obviously, my friends, by the time I finished my degree, they were already writing the board exam. But they were very, supportive. And they really said, you need to get it. You need to get it. And that's what really drove me. And I think what changed the trajectory really was the fact that when I was at UCT, I did VEC work at KPMG.
Oh.
And for some reason, I lost touch. And I hear from the recruitment department at that time, they were trying to find out what happened to Emma, because I was not at UCT. I was like under the radar, nowhere. And one day they just phoned me. It was actually a public holiday. I remember Eric at the time, he was a partner responsible for HR in Joburg. And he phoned me and he said, where have you been? And I said, I didn't even know you noticed that I haven't done VEC work in a while. And he said, look, you need to come. Just come in. So I explained my whole story. And he said, okay, just come in and let's have a conversation around how we can accommodate you for the next intake. And God always comes through for all of us. And the following year in 2001, I started my articles. And
so where were you with your studies now?
Now I had almost finished. I graduated 2001.
Okay.
With my degree, my BCom now. I didn't have CTA, obviously, but because the UNISA results came, they used to come out, I think, around Feb. So I ended up having to do a BCTA at Rau, which is now University of Johannesburg, in 2001. Although I had finished, I did not have the physical confirmation of that I've finished my BCom. So I did the BCTA, the best decision ever, because it also helped me to, I think people don't understand how difficult it is to self-study. So now being in a classroom was almost like a revision of third year before I do CTA. And also just, it was one of those times where I needed to just slow down. So it was good for me. And I finished BCTA with my articles.
Okay.
And then I registered for my CTA at Rau in 2002. Unfortunately, I didn't pass. In 2003, I went to University of Natal.
Oh, okay.
And I passed with flying colors.
Okay.
And and then from there on, I passed my board exams first attempt, both of them.
Oh, wow.
And obviously, I was working part-time within the mining unit of KPMG.
Okay.
And it was tough. I mean, there were long hours.
What do you mean part-time?
Well, I was studying part-time. Yes, I was studying part-time. And I was doing my articles. And remember that in the Big Four, you would know, most students came in already with CTA and they were writing board one. Okay. But I was almost 2 academic years behind. Okay. Yeah, so there was a lot of pressure. And you study throughout the year, whereas the other article clerks only write board exam in Jan, right? And they have the year to focus on their work.
I just want to capture this whole thing because you went through challenges. I mean, we are young and we're faced with this challenge of having to drop out of school. Yeah. And that can be so devastating that you can lose yourself right there. Yeah. And I love that your parents were supportive in, reminding you that you need to snap up out of it, and how you listened to that, because sometimes we don't even listen to our parents, when they encourage us. But you didn't give up. I mean, you failed, you didn't give up. You could have felt so ashamed to be behind your peers, but you didn't even allow that to stop you. We don't want, because people go through challenges and the way we handle challenges is different. And some people, they get so overwhelmed that they quit, they give up. What would you say to people who are going through challenges right now? What lessons did you learn from your experience that would be helpful to them?
So I think for me, the biggest thing was you have to go through the emotions in the beginning. It's, I always see almost, sensitively equated to grief. You have to go through that period of being so disappointed, blaming my parents. There was a point where I didn't even listen to them. It's, no, you can't tell me. I'm here because of you. Yes. But you have to snap out of it if you know that, God has a greater plan. I always just remember that there were days where I was like close to giving up. And because I lived with my dad, and we all know African men don't quite communicate. Yes. And he will just leave me to it. But I think there was a point where he would show me signs that they still believe in me. I mustn't let this be the end of it all. Yes. And I think, through that, I also just, learned to be kind to myself and look at the wins that I had made. Because even when I failed CTA at Rau, I think that was even worse because I was already second year articles. I'm like, no, not another setback, Yes. And I was scared I wouldn't get it because everybody said, studying part-time CTA, it's like impossible. What are you doing? And I knew that I could not do it part-time because I did not have the latitude of, having enough financial resources. So I think in a nutshell, people must allow themselves to go through the motions, learn. You know, you
learn,
must
because
learn.
there are lessons in this challenge.
Exactly.
Which is what we miss. We miss the fact that although a challenge may be devastating, and all you can see is the problem, because this is what we do. We just focus on the problem, and we miss the fact that there are growth opportunities here. And I want people to learn from other people's challenges and realize that, I mean, look at what happened beyond which we are going to share with us.
Yeah.
But the fact that you didn't quit, you didn't give up, you're strong. You know, you're strong. You could face the challenge.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, you can't emerge out of the challenge the same person. You grow from the challenge, which prepares you for the next phases of your life.
Yeah.
Even when you had that challenge of a CTA, failing CTA, you already had, you know, experience of facing challenges. Although you may be devastated, but you still woke up and realized that I can't give up. I must keep going. And you got your CTA, and you sailed from there. Yeah. Because remember, the challenge was a preparation for bigger things. For me, challenges were life-changing. Falling pregnant at age 17, not knowing what I wanted to do, and finding myself, and then, you know, knowing what I wanted to do and studying, changed my life, changed my life completely. Without that challenge, I would not have found who I am and built the kind of life that I've built. So people must appreciate the blessing that a challenge is. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Then you finished articles, and then what happened?
Yeah. So, and I think, you know, when I finished my articles, you know, I mean, I passed board one first time. You know, I remember walking into the corridors after our audit, those lunches, the results lunches, and I got my letters like, "Ooh, I'm a manager." Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. So I worked really, really hard. I had, during my article days, I never at any point used the fact that I was studying as an excuse not to work long hours at the, you know, we all know mining. I mean, my clients were BHP Billiton, Sasol. We had a client in Sasolburg. There were days where we would leave the Crescent, which was KPMG's offices, at like 6 a.m., back at 10 p.m., and you have to be back there to meet again. And, you know, it's all about discipline and focus. And I always told myself that it was just this time. I need to get this thing over the line, and everything else will follow.
Yes.
You know, so I didn't always look at it as a stumbling block, but I looked at it as an opportunity for greater things beyond articles. So when I got my letter, I was like, woo, here we come.
Yes.
Yeah, but the reality is at that stage, I didn't really have the first love for auditing.
Okay.
It was a means to greater opportunities, like I said earlier. So I stayed on in audit for about 6 more years. And then, 6 more months, sorry. And then I went to, a listed company, owned by Dr. Anna Mokhokong and Joma Dungandaba. That's where I had my first job out of articles.
Okay.
So I was there, Group FM, and it really opened my eyes, because I think it was very different from when I was junior in finance. Now I almost had to, make decisions. And I remember that's when IFRS came. So everybody was doing IFRS 1 conversion. So I helped the group with that conversion. But also my portfolio included tax, dealing with internal auditors. I remember we had a one-man show, internal auditor. And it was quite a big portfolio. I also acted at some point as their company secretary. So they really created a good platform for me to learn.
Okay.
And in that, I was able to see, what do I actually enjoy? What do I not enjoy, And I didn't stay long. I went to Denel Optronics to be a divisional CFO.
Yes.
And so when I arrived, it was, quite a, disorganized kind of environment. And I remember they were also struggling with the, reporting, etc., etc. So, I went in to clean up because at the time, Tinel was now corporatizing the divisions. And our division was later bought 70% by a German company, Carl Zeiss. And I was very key, being the divisional CFO, to make sure that everything is ready for due diligence. That was part of my portfolio. So, and then I got exposure to international through Carl Zeiss, obviously, because in my 6 months after the sale, I stayed on as a CFO and reported to the group CFO in Germany, in Oberkochen. So I used to go there a bit.
How was it like to work with Germans?
Precision. So they are very, very structured, very organized. They're goal orientated. They deliver. Very little room for error. So, and I was young. I was still driven, but it was a male dominated environment. And it had its own challenges. There were expectations that you could just start have a board meeting at 6 p.m. on a Sunday. So it was very hard. It was a hard environment. And it just didn't work for me at the time, because that's when I decided, okay, I'm 34. Am I going to get married? Am I going to have a child? And that's when I met my ex-husband. And through that, I realized that actually I want to slow down, right? Yeah, so it was also a way of saying I've spent the last, having started working at 19, I was now 32, 33. I was fatigued a bit. And that's when I decided I've done what I needed to do at Carl Zeiss. I've had my learnings. The one thing that I remember I learned a lot, which I still apply now, even in auditing, is to think out of the box. As accountants are always driven by IFRS. That's what we focus on. But when you're on the other side of the table, you need to think about, yes, compliance is a given. We must comply with IFRS. But is there a risk here? We forget the risk lens. We forget the commercial aspect of every decision. So it really taught me that, because that's what they do very well. It's about commercial. Even when you're a CFO, it's not just about the compliance numbers, but you have to understand the operations, because that's where the commercial ability comes in. So that for me was the big aha thing. And like I say, I apply it even now that I'm back in audit. So, and then I had my son, my only child, in 2009. I slowed down a bit, I must be honest. And unfortunately, the company, after Carl Zeiss, I had a stint in a smaller, IT company as their CFO. Also, we're going through challenges, reliant on one government tender, and unfortunately it went into liquidation. And it happened to be around the same time that I had, I went on maternity leave. So I ended up taking an extended maternity leave, and Bramos, being Bramos from KPMG, came to find me again and said, come back to audit.
Wow.
And that's pretty much, I've been in audit ever since.
So I mean, maybe let's just talk about purpose. You, in the beginning, you felt that auditing is not really for me, right?
Yeah.
And then this is Moscosan, I assume.
Yes.
Okay. So certainly, God comes out of the blue, calls you back to audit. Most people struggle with is it, am I being drawn to my purpose? What is purpose? People fuss around. I can't find my purpose, and so on. Why do you think you you agreed to go back when initially you had thought that audit is not for you? And secondly, what would you advise around purpose? What is purpose to you? Yeah.
So I think the main thing that made me go back was I needed a safe space to find my feet, right?
Okay.
At that stage, I really didn't even think about what is my purpose. I just felt, you know what, now I have a family, I've got a child that I need to provide for, but I need to find my feet, because I had been to a couple of companies in a space of 5 years. Okay. So now it's completely different from what I've been doing for the last 5 years, but I need to find my feet. I need to have time to balance work and my family. And by the way, balance doesn't work. And along the way, I then was approached to join Nkonki to head up their internal audit division. I think having been in that division is where I really found my purpose.
Okay.
I've always known that my calling is to develop others. And I looked at my history and the challenges that I had. And having been in that mining unit of KPMG where there were not many black girls doing articles, they're very, male-dominated as well. I didn't want another Emma from Limpopo, from Umtata to go through what I was going through.
Okay.
So I then used that opportunity to think about, what is my purpose? Because without this purpose, I'm going to move from one company to another, and I'm never going to know what fulfills me. So I think that for me is very key, because you can't chase goals if you don't have purpose.
Okay.
A goal follows a purpose. You first need to say, what am I here for? And then you align the goals and the opportunities to help you achieve your purpose. So my purpose, now I know it very clear, is to develop others, to open opportunities for others to achieve their goals. And I guess that's why I established MASA when things did, when Nkonki went into liquidation. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is the second company I've worked for that has gone into liquidation. What is God telling me? But because I was very clear around my purpose, I looked around my team. There were many people at that stage. I mean, when Nkonki went into liquidation, it was 5 years. I had been there for 5 years. I had done amazing work to establish the internal audit division. We were thriving. Transnet was our biggest client. We established it from zero base. I mean, every single person who was on that account that I was the lead, I had personally interviewed and chosen. And I looked at them and I said, okay, we've got an opportunity with a listed client that I had now also established a team. And that's what I want to do. I don't want to lose this opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I approached, Tantaswa and Dominic and Butsango, and I said, this is what I want to do. Can I do it on the back of finishing off this Barloworld contract? And that's the opportunity that, aligned for me at the time. Yes. And it was also because I didn't want to lose my purpose. I still looked around and I said, there are many students who are never going to be absorbed in all these big four firms.
Yes.
But I'm fortunate that I've got the best of both worlds. I've worked in a Black-owned firm, and I've worked in a global firm.
Yes.
How do I use those lessons to continue to develop others?
Okay.
And that's really why establishing MASA made sense for me. And since then, I mean, we've our teams that we've trained from varsity, we work with UJ and UP. We've got good internal audit candidates there. They've qualified over the 3 years. I mean, there are people who've started with us from zero to manager,
Wow.
to senior manager. We've trained our first CA, and we had to make sure that they have the right support structures. And it's difficult. I mean, I think people don't understand the machinery besides audit firms. It's very tough, requires a lot of sacrifice and investment. But I always say to my EXO team, we shouldn't lose our purpose. We are not here, we're not a body shop. We are here to develop CAs, to develop IT auditors, internal auditors, and that is our purpose. And we shouldn't steer away from that, because it's easy to steer away from it when the cash flows are not looking good.
Yes.
Then you're like, no, they're not going to go for training next week. But you actually need to realize, what is your purpose? Because if once you lose your purpose, or not even have a purpose, it's easy to take a different direction. Yeah. So for me, in a nutshell, you cannot say you've got goals if you don't have purpose.
Yeah.
What are the goals for? So that for me, it's very important. Find your purpose first, and then you can align the goals.
Okay. I mean, it's not easy to make a decision to go on your own.
Yes.
Right? You had built your career in working for other companies. Going on your own is a sort of a big decision. How did you go about making that decision? And where you are now, are you still happy with the decision you made?
Look, I think having worked in a smaller firm, right?
Yes.
Gave me the opportunity to almost feel like you're an entrepreneur inside a big business.
Okay.
I think, that for me is a blessing that I had in preparing me for to go on my own, because I had latitude as the head of internal audit to run this business inside a big business.
Okay.
The only difference is I didn't have to worry about whether people
are gonna be paid
or not. I must just bring the invoices and they get paid. But here you have to worry about both, right? So I think it really prepared me, but it still didn't make the decision easier.
Okay.
So I toyed between, I'm too young to have this kind of level of stress. And one day I just woke up and I said, well, don't waste a crisis. I don't know what I was reading. And I saw this quote, never waste a crisis. That for me was an aha moment. And I think that's why I even went to Tanti Ballowald at that stage, because I thought, if I don't do it, then am I going to be fulfilled where I was going? Because I was actually in the middle of another interview, and, when I eventually dropped them and they were like, how much do you want? And I said, it's not about the money. It's just not what I want to do right now. Maybe in 10 years, 20 years time, I don't know. But right now, I feel strongly that I want to do this. And it wasn't easy, because now I had to think about what needs to be sacrificed within my own personal space to be able to achieve this goal. Because, establishing from zero base, it's very hard.
Yes.
But I'm fortunate that I had unlike a typical entrepreneur, on day one, I had a client. And I literally had to, open up to them, why it's important that they support me and where I'm going to need the most support. So I think it was a tough decision, because I had to obviously also convince the team that was there that this is not a sad April Fool's joke, but we are actually starting this thing, and this is what I want to achieve, and we need to work together to achieve it.
Yes.
And finding the right partners, as senior guys to, make sure we are aligned and we are able to achieve our goals. So it was tough. It still is tough, I must be honest. People think you wake up and, everything is hunky-dory every day. It's not. There are days when I'm like, yo,
why did I do this to myself?
Yeah, 6 years in, we are still here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tougher than ever because we started in 2018 and obviously I'm the majority shareholder. Nobody funds an audit firm, or services firms.
Mm-hmm.
So they are always backed by the strength of the majority or the shareholders, the majority shareholder, so it's tough. And it's a young brand. Nobody knows the brand. I think it's always easier to maybe buy an existing brand. This is me
building it from
scratch. Yes, I had a personal brand of my own, having delivered many audit firms, having networked. But it's not the same. Well, now when you have to stand on your own feet, it's very different from working within a bigger group or a system. So I had nightmares in the beginning, and I still do have worse nightmares.
Yes.
Because now we were 14 then. Now there's almost 30 of us, and it's not easy. And the more you grow, the culture of the firm changes. You can't control everything. You have to let go. And it's been challenging. Every day has its own problems, and I treat it like that. That honestly, if I have to pile up all the problems in one day, it's not good for my health either, and it's not good for the team. So it's been eye-opening, and obviously being a Black woman, people always feel like probably it's just the season. They are gonna give up soon. I've seen people who look at me in the eye and they don't say it. I can already see they're like, just give it up, man. You can have a cushy job somewhere.
Yes.
But it's not my purpose right now. So in a nutshell, it's still tough. There are days that I feel like, okay, that's it. I can't do this. But, there's that energy in me that after doing a long run, comes back to direct me back to my purpose. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I suppose, you can focus on, challenges and, that small voice that says quit. And you don't know that around the corner may be your biggest breakthrough. And if you had quit when it was tough, that breakthrough is not going to find you. So you find that entrepreneurs persevere, not necessarily because of a big breakthrough. They persevere because they believe in themselves and they believe in what they are doing. And in your case, you're very much driven by purpose. When you see people developing, that gives you the fulfillment that you need, that any job would probably not give it to you. I mean, I always look at my life and I say, I look at my colleagues who went into corporate, and I would say, you made foolish decisions. No, like you'd be rich now, like your colleagues. But I look at what I built, the legacy that I built for future generations, the people I developed, and I find fulfillment. I find fulfillment in. Sure, I mean, I probably also didn't think big about purpose at the time.
Yeah,
I just had this desire to prove to myself and others that there was nothing I couldn't do as a Black woman, and that as a Black woman or a Black person, we can also do these things ourselves. And I want a Black child to look at my life and say, I can also do it. So for me, that was the driving force behind staying on in the accounting profession for as long as I did. But looking back, I can say, no, I definitely made the right decision. Now, I would be rich and unfulfilled, right? But now I know that that investment that I made in other people's future will pay off, for many years. So I appreciate that. Now, when you are on your own and you're a leader of your own business, you bring in other people into the business. I mean, you hear stories, especially for small, medium-sized businesses, how people come in, they're different, they have different views about what the company should be doing or how it should be doing it. And you always hear about these problems of, fallouts, and that can be very devastating. I mean, I know I've gone through some of those, and it's sort of the biggest challenge, because I mean, what you wanted was to start a business. You didn't want to create problems for yourself in the process.
Yeah.
Have you experienced those, or how have you avoided those things? How have you made sure that the team gels together in spite of the personality differences and all those things?
Yeah, so, like I was saying, when the team grows, that's when people come and go, right? People who were there in the beginning, it's easy because they understood the infancy and where we are going. So when you bring in new people, that's when you realize that even the leadership team that you have may not be as aligned. So I have gone through that.
Okay.
A stage where I was like, do I have the right leadership team around me? And I had to be deliberate and open and frank, and we discuss, are we still on the same purpose? This is my purpose. I know I might impose it on you, but what is actually your purpose? So it actually forced me to have a health check around, the culture and relationship. Because remember, the people below us, it's easy for them. We want to do our articles like I was in 2000 and go.
Yes.
I actually don't care about anything else. But when you think about the manager above, those are the people that you need to always make sure that you are aligned.
Yes.
You may not always agree.
Yes.
I mean, I always say, and we hardly agree on petty stuff, but we need to make sure that we agree on the things that are driving our purpose.
Okay.
And there's been many conflicts. And I always say to my business partners, we should be careful how we manage our conflicts. It shouldn't seep into our values and the core of our purpose. But we need to, approach it head on. I mean, there was a time where I thought, okay, this is the end. Probably like you've experienced it in the past. But you have to be a bigger person and say, by the way, why did I even choose to be, in shareholding structures with these people?
Yes.
And then you have to go there. And it was very eye-opening that, the same things that were frustrating them were also frustrating me, but we had different ways of managing them.
Yes.
So I think conflict, where you put two people together, we are not going to be 100% aligned. And I think that's where it's important to remember we need to be humble. We are chasing the same goal. The minute pride and ego are in the picture, you're never going to achieve anything.
Yes.
So I must be honest, the reason why we probably thrived in the relationship is because we know when to put our egos aside.
Okay.
And I've got a big personality.
Yes.
I'm bubbly, but I'm also tough. And, unless I understand your point of view and you put it across, I may just pursue my own goal, but it's been an eye-opener for me as well to say, sometimes even when people are not talking, the silence
is talking.
So when do you listen to the silence and say, ooh, what does that mean? And it's been an eye-opener, I must be honest, particularly in the last 18 months, because that's where I felt that we were, client facing, good, but in terms of managing the dynamics in the firm around culture, around alignment, around how do we train, how do we nurture talent, it was not always necessarily aligned. And unfortunately, that's the core of your delivery structures. So I've gone through it, and it will always have its cycles, but at least now we know what we want to achieve. We are not different from when we started. When we know when to listen to each other, and we know when to constructively disagree. And I always say, also, not agreeing is a good thing sometimes.
Yes. Because out of that, you can find a better solution.
Exactly. So, I've gone through it. I'm probably still going to go through it, but it's really how we never forget our purpose that will help us survive. Yeah.
When I remember I was in a BE with, I think, we 10 very powerful, strong women with very strong opinions about, life and this business and so on. And we spent so much time just arguing among ourselves and differing about what the purpose was. Other people had strong views around developing the poor and so on. And I was one of those who had strong views around developing future leaders, because I felt that future leaders have a bigger impact. And we lost sight of the business that we were building, right? That without this business, all those ambitions and dreams or sense of purpose will mean nothing. The first thing was to develop this business. And we missed an opportunity because we were, a group of talented people who, if we had focused on, what we're bringing around the table and using what we have to build a real sustainable business, which could have done both. We could have done both, or, and so on. But focusing on that thing was just so depleting, and we created such a toxic environment that at the end, everybody was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. And some of the personalities, of course, were stronger and insisting that, how they see this it should go that way, and so on and so forth. And, I remember we came together about 10 years later, we had a reunion as these women to sort of settle the thing and make real peace about the future. But that moment for me was so sad that the potential was so big, and it was destroyed by not focusing on what you need to focus on. And we ended up missing a great opportunity that could have been, a foundation for economic transformation in South Africa. So I just want to say, I'm glad that you are mindful of, let's be aware of why are we here, right? And so let's not allow all these other things to distract us from the real purpose of why we are here. And also being aware of the health of the organization, doing that dipstick of the health of the organization, so that we can arrest these things earlier, and being aware that it's egos. I mean, this story I've just shared is all about egos, really, at the end of the day, that we didn't have the maturity of realizing that. Let's just put the egos aside and just focus on what needs to happen. And we want people to learn from our mistakes, so that they don't have to repeat those mistakes after that. You sit on boards, you run the marathon, the Comrades marathon, yeah, for me, people who run the comrades are really courageous people. So how do you remain authentic in these environments? When you sit on a board, it's not like running your own business that you can direct things your own way.
Yeah.
How do you bring Emma in these spaces and not lose who you are because you are seen as a young Black woman, you are even young, which makes things even tougher.
Yeah.
How do we navigate that space?
So I think for me, the very important people is to always understand who you are, regardless of which environment you're in. It's easy to fit in, but once you lose what made you fit in, people are going to see through you. So I always try and make sure that I leverage off my strengths and I remain myself. And I understand that there are some things I won't know. So why pretend like I know?
Okay.
I am very authentic in that way, that I understand what are my strengths and I leverage off them. But also, you have to, to open yourself to learning. I think it's very important for me. And learning comes in different forms. Sometimes it's when you're in a board meeting and you're now at an insurance client, there's IFRS 17, you're like, okay, I've never seen this IFRS. And there are many ways of learning, investing your time in reading about it, actually, and spending time with management to explain how this thing relates to their environment. So I always bring my true self.
Okay.
There are many versions of me. Some days I'm tired and people may see a different energy, but I try and be consistent, and that's why I exercise. I always say to even the chairs of my boards, these 8:00 meetings, some of them I can't think straight if I don't go for that jog in the morning. That's what keeps me going.
Okay.
And you also need to it's important for me that when you meet people, you need to arrive as Emma, not the version of Emma.
Okay.
My version is looking after myself first is very important. So that's why that jog in the morning is very important.
Okay.
So I need to make sure that I do the things that empower me first before I can go show up. Right? Okay. Because otherwise you'll show up as someone else, and tomorrow you're showing up as it's a different person. So be consistent. But I think in boards, the important thing is never to don't be scared to talk. A lot of us girls are scared to talk. But it means you need to be prepared. You can't talk about things you haven't prepared for.
Okay.
So I always make sure that I'm prepared. But it's about consistency. You can't, in this meeting, you're vocal. This one, you're not vocal. You have to be consistent as an individual. And I'm driven. I'm one of those people who will go home and I'm like, shucks, did I do my best today?
Oh, wow.
So I really, I go out, say, this is what I'm going to achieve today. But I also have been blessed with the ability not to forget to reflect, because it helps me the next time, So, in a nutshell, I always want to make sure that I'm consistent and I'm not a different Emma to Mam Nonku versus this one versus that one. I try and make sure that I'm consistent and just be kind. Sometimes you have to be kind to yourself and to others. So if you don't show up as that true self, you can fake it, but sometimes it's going to catch up with you.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm definitely not good at.
Okay.
But I think I just have that personality that can carry me to not look at my weaknesses as things that people should use against me. So I'm very brave when I see like this is not gonna work for me. I'll tell someone this is not gonna work.
Okay.
This ends here. So I think you have to have courage. And sometimes it takes a while to speak up, but eventually you need to speak up if you want to remain authentic. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this thing of authenticity is, I think it's a big subject that we are all grappling with, because we have been, we grew up in a certain family where we're expected to fit in with the culture of the family. And then you go to, to work, you have to fit in with the corporate culture, and there's an expectation for you to fit in with that culture.
Yeah.
And it's very easy for you to just adapt and into that culture without realizing that you're losing yourself, right? So at some point, you've got to know who you are, as you are saying, what you're good at, what you're not good at. Don't try to pretend to be good at things that you're not good at, because you're going to fail at things that you're not good at. And I'm always vocal about things like that. For instance, where I serve on the board, I never want to chair the audit committee, because I know that technically I'm not strong. I have a business mind, a strategic mind. And those are the things that I bring to the audit committee. I don't mind serving on the audit committee, but I'm never going to chair it. And I'm always vocal about that. I tell my chairmen that don't even think about me in terms of succession planning around that. I love social and ethics. I think it talks to my values and purpose again. So I love sharing that and not being shy about that. And I always notice that when I say, hey, some of the things, technical things, that's pass above my head, you hear the CFO say, me too, people feel free, to also, vocalize the things that they are good at and not. So people will not reject you when you're authentic, but definitely when you're pretending to be someone else, that's where people will see through you anyway. Okay, we've run out of time. As we close, what are your last words to these young people who look up to you and want to succeed like you?
Yeah, so I think this has been an amazing conversation, but I think young people need to not be scared to try new things. When we were growing up, there were doctors, lawyers. When the economy opened, everybody was a nurse or a teacher or a policeman, etc. And now I realize, bringing up a Gen Z, that he's not thinking accounting. He's thinking football. He's thinking this and that. So I think it's good that, young people really think about what is their purpose in that way. Is it really about sitting in an office, or is it about doing something that is going to change the world? So those were things that we were not at latitude to think about growing up. So I'm always saying that, if you need to take a gap year after articles, travel the world, go to different countries, see what economies, how they operate. Don't be so quick to say, okay, I finished my articles, now the next job is an FD. Just relax. I think have a purpose and align all your efforts and energies to achieve that purpose. I think that for me is very important, and not be scared to take a break. I think it's very easy to go from matric to university. Everything is a mad rush, but I'm encouraging even my teams to say, now that you've done CIA, what do you want to do? Hey, you sure? Take a break. Think about what else. It could be the what else that you don't even know about that will help you to become a better auditor, to become a better whatever you want to be. So I think that for me is very important that young people take the time to, think about what they want to achieve, not play someone's life. Think about, what is my life? What do you want to play? What is this movie that I'm going into? Wow. And what control do I have that I can enjoy my part in that movie? So that for me is a big thing. It's all comes back to purpose, something that is not, written in any textbook in high school or university. But I think it really drives, how someone will be able to contribute in the economy, contribute in society, etc. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Emma. This was such an insightful interview. And I know that my listeners are going to learn a lot from your journey. And, you mentor a lot of people that will never meet. And then I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.